G'day. Lovely to be here with you outside in the sunshine. Oh, my hat's crooked. There we go. Sort that out. Let me show you the world before we go inside, and I'll give you the update on what I've done this morning. There's still plenty to see. Look, there's a very blue sky. Can't move the phone line, sorry, but you know, blue sky. Yeah, the aeroplane route is not far away from here, so we can watch that for a little bit, but you know, not for very long. I've still got cinerarias. They're starting to get old, you can see that, but the roses are growing through them, and I rather like that because the roses tend to be a bit spindly here, and so it makes them look less spindly. And look, we have roses. This is the Sweetheart Rose, Cecile Brunner. It's just lovely, and there's this huge purple cineraria right in the middle of it, and everything looks better when there's purple to contrast with these lovely, lovely colours. Oh look, see that shoot? That's come from the bottom of the cherry tree, and I've got to chop it off. But there you go, that's life with a cherry tree. It's always suckering from the bottom. Hi Marianne, great to see you. Look at the lichen on the trunk. Isn't that cool? It's pretty awesome. I like to stop and appreciate these things. And oh yeah, it's growing like a mad thing because it got pruned. Excuse me, I'm walking here, not actually looking at what I'm showing you, but now I can look up again. So I just love looking through the leaves and seeing the green, and yeah, blue sky with green leaves. There's really nothing missing. A few late cherry buds up there, but most of the flowers are gone. So just let me show you. This is the corner where it's all happening, despite the fact that we have a new plant which is starting to grow. And then, you know, there's bare soil because I put it in. But look, this is coming up. This is a meadow rue. It's a white one. So that's coming up. And yeah, cineraria that are finishing, but a really nice rose. And over here, this is just the best thing. Try not to step on too much here. Look at this. I don't even know what this is called, but I've just decided it's my new favourite plant. It smells really good as well. Yeah, it's something I rescued. Truly rescued. It'd be the original plant that I took a cutting of is gone now. And this, of course, is the orchid, which is so bright. And look, the little miniature rose is out. It's growing in amongst the coriander. So yeah, we've got coriander to eat, and these beautiful bright red, bright salmon, I suppose you could call it. They're out, and behind them is the snow carpet. So yeah, it's the season for roses, and because we haven't mowed the lawn yet, it's also the season for lawn daisies and buttercups, and you can see why we haven't mowed the lawn yet. It's lovely. So yeah, that's the world out here. It's a little bit wild and woolly, but there's been a lot to do. I've had 4 trees to move, and I moved the 4th one last weekend, and I am really looking forward to catching up on the madness in here. And just, you know, letting you see it. It's lovely. There's just enough wind to move the leaves, but nothing else. I should have bought my little list of songs outside, then I could talk to you here. But instead, I'm going to go inside and give you the update. Just wander on in. It is the time of year when the garden is amazing. So, just get on and out of the sunshine. Out of the sunshine, that's a shame. Shouldn't have been saying that. Come in and shut the door. Take off my hat now. There's the thing about having fair skin and not much hair, by choice I might say, that you actually need to stay out of the sun in New Zealand. The sun here is pretty bright. So, now let me... Alright, now I'm not wonky. I'm just... That's better. I've got a little camera and a little stand. So, getting myself organised here. So this week, another morning's writing on GodOfMe,
And it was a day, really, I'm actually a little bit rumpled today, as in I had a rough night, and that happens, but I still got up and it doesn't happen very often, I have to say. I still got up and I did my meditation because without that, I would be more than rumpled, I'd be crumpled and, throw me in the waste bin. Hello, beautiful, I can see. Facebook hasn't told me who you are. Suzanne! Now, here's great to see you, sweetie. So yeah, I had a rugged morning, but I still thought I want to do this. This is my running time. So I made my walk up the hill and got back, having done my meditation, put my brain and body in order for the day, because without that I'd be out of order, and got into it. And so, as I always do, I picked up where I left off last week and thought, oh yeah, that's fine. And I had started to write about, oh God, I've forgotten. I've got my little list of songs. I've got to go back. I want to make a connection here. So, yeah, last week I connected learning with emotions and survival or creation, and I wanted to properly explain the whole survival or creation thing. Because what is that, But before I got there, something else happened. In the process of looking at things, I was looking at something that I'd written earlier, just about, hi Laurie, not about hi Laurie, but hi Laurie, just about the number of cells that we have in our body and how many chemical reactions take place in one cell in 1 second, and the mind-blowing numbers, okay? And I suddenly looked at it, and I'll tell you what the numbers are in a minute, but I suddenly looked at it and thought, okay, 37.2 trillion cells is the most recent estimate of how many cells on average a person has in their body. And I thought, okay, and you are expecting somebody who has limited education or limited exposure to information or whatever to understand what that is. What does that number even mean? It's stupid. Who knows? What you got to make that number real. You got to make that number real. And I thought, well, how do I do that? And I looked up the internet, and it's like there are all kinds of pictures of what does $1 trillion look like, but I didn't want to use that because it's not about money. It was, how do I explain or how do I visualize to somebody who has no idea what that number means if you've got that many cells in your body? Because our autonomic nervous system does this incredible job of running our body from second to second to second to second to second. It's amazing. And that's one of the things that I just unpack a little bit, right? So if we have 37.2 trillion cells, what does that mean? And I thought, okay, just about everybody knows what a brick is. A brick. You make buildings out of them. So I looked up the volume of a brick, and if you add water, it's basically, what is it? It's, oh God, I'm going to do this in centimetres, because in New Zealand we do centimetres and metres. So it's 10 by 10 by 20. It's a standard unit if you include the water. And I just did a calculation, and I got all mixed up because there's so many zeros. But I calculated how, to cut a long story short, I calculated what the volume is if you have 37.2 trillion bricks. How do you work that out? I used to be really good at maths. I had to scratch my head and remember some stuff and check my calculations because I thought this doesn't look right. But what it turns out is if you have 37.2 trillion bricks and you make them into a cube, right? Just to make it simple, you just take those bricks and you make them into a cube. So a cube is the same width and depth and height. Really easy shape. That cube, the sides of that cube are going to be 4.2 kilometers long. Kilometers. And kilometers you get, hang on, that's how I get mixed up. So that would be, I don't know, probably a bit less than 3 miles long. I'm not very good at the conversion. Big cube, right? I mean, how long is 4 kilometers? I don't even know how long that takes to drive. But I think we walk 4 miles. So it might be a 20-minute walk, right? It's a long way. 4.2 kilometers along, 4.2 kilometers back, 4.2 kilometers high. That is something that I think anybody can relate to. And I actually, now that I've thought about that, I'm going to work out how long does it take to walk 4.2 kilometres. That is a number that anybody will understand. Oh, if it takes half an hour, that's a long way. And that's how many bricks it is that we have cells in our body, right? So that's a big number. And then you discover that, again, on average, everything's averages, but every single cell, every one of those bricks, every second, just in 1 second, is in the order of 100,000 chemical reactions in your cells in 1 second. Oh, there's another 100,000, there's another 100,000, there's another 100,000. You get the idea? Are you managing all of that? Really? 37.2 trillion times 100,000 just gets to be a really silly number. You just add another 6 zeros on the end. It's crazy. That's what our autonomic nervous system does for us in every second, running our bodies for us, which is pretty mind-blowing. And of course, the whole point is that how we think and how we feel sends information to our autonomic nervous system and gives it instructions for whether we are in survival or whether we are in creation. And, I better keep a check on the clock so I don't talk for hours. Survival, in survival, it's really simple. We have detected a threat in our environment. We have said there is a lion, somebody wants to kill me, somebody wants to fight me, or someone is trying to find me that I don't want to. So we either run, we fight, or we hide. Those are the three things that happen when we perceive something in our world, in our environment, that we consider as a threat. And if the brain goes into survival, that's what we can do. All of the energy comes out. There's no energy for thinking. You don't have energy in your brain to think rationally. You only have, I've got to run, I've got to fight, I've got to hide. Where can I go to? Where is the threat? What am I going to do about it? That's it. And so when we are in that kind of space, I know it is amazing, Suzette. You got it. It is amazing what our bodies do every second. And here we are the boss. And if we keep perceiving, and often not consciously, don't I know it, if we keep perceiving that there's a threat in our environment and we are in survival, and by the way, people and more than one person I've heard say is that most of us are in survival mode 70% of the time. That's a long time to be in a state where your body says, I've got to run away from that lion or fight off that person that wants to kill me or hide from that thing that if it finds me, I'm going to die. That's what survival is, evolutionarily. That's how we're wired. So if we spend 70% of the day in that kind of state, what that means is that during that time, our body does not have energy to digest food properly, so the digestive system gets screwed up. You know, if you keep doing this over and over and over again for days and months and years, weeks and years, we don't have energy for the heart, because it all, or for all the things for immunity. We don't have energy for our immune system because we're perceiving that there is a serious threat in the environment. All of the energy is being delivered to our hands and our feet so that we can run away or we can fight. So, you know, skeletal muscles got all the energy, but there's no energy for digestion. There's no energy for your immune system. And, you know, the pupils of the eyes, they dilate because we really need to see, and we focus in on the problem. And that's what, I mean, there's lots more, but that's what the survival state is and does with us. Yeah, if you spend so much time in survival, and I know what this is like, and I know how challenging this is to change. Believe me, I've been doing it, Laurie, I get it. And it is possible to change, and this is what I'm writing about. And I want to give people tools so that they know at least it is possible. And here are some little ways to get into it. This is survival. And as my complete inspiration, Dr. Joe Dispenza, says, that adaptation is very adaptive. It's very useful. If you need to survive, if you need to run away from a saber-toothed tiger, you better take all your energy to do that. But when the saber-toothed tiger has, you know, not killed you, you need to not continue to be in that state, because when you're not in survival, you can be in creation. And in the creative state, your body does have energy to heal injury. to heal illness. Hi, Christine. Great to see you. Lovely to have you with us. The body does have energy to digest food and to organize. It's like, oh, here's food. Okay, so we need stomach acid, and we need bile from the liver, and then we need pancreatic enzymes, and we need rhythmic contractions of all the different, the parts of the gut to move the food along. All of that has to be coordinated, but the brain and the body don't get to do that if you're in survival. And I know, because it used to be all the time, that when I was in stress, I didn't want to eat. It's not a time to eat. I got to run, fight, or hide. That's it. So if you lost your appetite because something awful's going on, that's why. There's no energy to digest food when you're running from a predator. So to get out of survival, you get into creation. And then the body can rest and digest, and it can heal. If you get stuck in stress, you are headed for disease. Because there's no energy to heal your body. There's no energy to restore it, to keep making new cells. Things will break down. This is what happens. So survival and creation is really important to understand those two and what they are. One is a state where you get to rest and digest and repair and regenerate and restore. And the other one is where you're escaping from some significant threat in your environment that, it's more important to survive than it is to do all those other things. And so I was explaining that. And, it took me time to do the bricks thing because I realized that was important. And then to write this little piece of text about all of what I've just rabbited on about, but to cut it down and yet not have big holes in it. And I remember a moment where I thought, oh God, I've got so little done today. And I thought, no, less is more. Because when you're on the internet, you don't want to blind people with science. You don't want to overload them. A lot of that stuff I can bring in later. Right now, I'm distilling concepts so that people can read the concepts and understand them. And they can add, they can clip, they can Lego more bits of information onto these core concepts later. And I'm going to explain, the survival response. It's your sympathetic nervous system, which is part of your autonomic nervous system, which is that amazing thing that does the 37 million trillion things every second in your body. It's got two branches. There's a sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response, and then there's a parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest response. But I don't want to do that now. I want to do it, I'm doing it very incrementally so that the concepts come in first and then you clip information on. Because if you give people too much information, it gets all scrambled up, they don't get the concepts, and then they've got nothing to put stuff on. Give them the central trunk and then hang stuff off it later. So I explained that. And there was something else that I did. Oh yeah, and this is the piece, so I did that. And then I thought, I want to start talking about the emotional scale. And again, there's a picture which you can very easily find on the interweb where you have the emotions, and the very bottom one is lust and competition. Because, if you think about the caveman, survival, the law of the jungle, we want to survive, we want to compete for resources and for places to be that are safe and all of that, and we want to procreate. And in nature, that means getting them a mate. It means beating out the other males to get to the females. So lust and competition is the really basic survival stuff. It's important stuff, but it's the slowest vibration, and these things have been measured. This isn't some woo-woo. You can actually measure the frequency of a thought, and this is another thing that I had to look up, which I'll get to in a minute. But I want to start talking about the fact that you have this really slow vibration, and you go all the way up through shame and sorrow and anger, and you get to things like, neutral, or not neutral's not an emotion, but love and peace and creation and bliss and ecstasy. And there's a scale, and when you measure those things, the frequency is much, much higher. The higher we go, the better we feel. So there's this connection between emotion and frequency, and I'm still trying to work out exactly how to do that simply. But what I did end up going to was another piece that I've written earlier, and I'm starting to do this, I'm starting to hook things together, where I talk about how thoughts move inside the brain. You've got neurons and they talk to other neurons. That they hook up. They hook up like people in a WhatsApp group is the example that I use. Because you can have 50 people and they're all hooked up and they've got different connections. It's a network. So you have neural networks like that. And thoughts travel through these neural networks, and they do it. There's an electrical charge when a neuron fires, but it's got to jump across the gap between itself. That charge has got to go from one neuron to the next one. There's actually a gap between them. It's called the synapse, and you need neurotransmitters to go across that gap. And there are all these different kinds of neurotransmitters that can do it. But which one? How do you choose? Well, it turns out that the thoughts have frequencies, and they are measurably different. And I was just watching a lecture about an explanation of a therapy method called brain paint. It's about 5 or 6 or 10 years old, however long it's been going. But it helps people to retrain their brain, change their brainwave state, which is really cool. But it actually does it. You can see it. And there are people who are trained in using this, and they can look on the screen and they can say, that's anger, that's sadness, that's whatever. Because they know how it looks. And there are other people who do it with sound, because it turns it into sound, turns it into vision. Some people just know how those different feelings sound because they use that modality. But the point is that they can do that. They can map someone's brain and put it on screen as a picture or make it into sound, because the different thoughts have different frequencies. And so I'm trying to figure out how to explain that in a way that makes sense to somebody who may be living in the third world and have no idea what that concept is, And then you go into the fact that, you have a period of time, and how many times the wave goes up and down in that period of time is actually the frequency or not. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. So hence, sometimes I look at what I've done and think, oh God, I wrote, this much of an A4 page on my screen. But there's all this work that goes into really streamlining it and condensing it. And every now and then I look at it and think, oh, that's another picture that my husband is going to have to draw, because there's got to be pictures to illustrate things. It is really cool information, Christine. I love this stuff. I love explaining this, and I find it really empowering. And by the way, Laurie, getting brain tired and shut down, being stuck in survival, there is a way to change that. And of course I know there's a way to change that, because I've learned how to do it, and I've learned how to do it from Dr. Joe. And I mean, he is a rock star in terms of giving people tools to do this. But I also know that many people don't have access to his information, and some people even just don't quite gel with him. I can't imagine that, but there are people who just struggle to make sense of the information, So what I'm doing is putting what I've learned in this particular way, but to help some of those people access the information, to take the first bite of the apple and to realise, okay, so I've actually got to change my brainwave. That's something else I've got to explain is brainwaves, very simply. But if you understand that when you're shut down and tired and your brain is cranky, I mean, I was like that this morning. It's like, oh God, because I had a rugged night. It happens occasionally, only occasionally. I understand that my brain is in chaos, that all the stuff that's going on in there because I didn't rest well, it's not working well. My brain isn't working well, so I feel like crap. But if I can make my brain work better, it's still an effort. Unless I really hit the jackpot, and sometimes I do, and then it's just all gone. Truly, the whole thing can be erased with enough coherence in my brain and in my heart. And I know how to do that now, and I understand it, and I understand why it's hard. And so that makes it easier to do. It's not hard every day, but when it is hard, I know why it's hard, and I know what to do to get over that stuff in myself. And I also know why it's so hard to stop being like that. Really, I had a massive breakthrough a bit over a week ago. I had a session from somebody who does clinical EFT, and she's very, very talented. And something huge shifted in me. It was so implicit that I knew I wasn't getting into it. By implicit, I mean totally unconscious, not aware of it, programmed at body level. It was so profound. And it's gone, and I'm still adapting to the fact that I'm not scanning my environment and my body both in and out, looking for something to feel afraid about. Now, I think I've been doing that for at least 50 years, if not the whole of my life. I have a feeling that it's actually a genetic program that I'm changing. So it is possible to change these. You just got to be able to get into the unconscious and the subconscious part of yourself to make those changes. You can't do it by willing it to be different. It doesn't work because only 5% of your brain is conscious. The 95% of you is unconscious or subconscious, and you've got to find a way to access that, and it starts by changing your brainwave state. So all this is stuff to explain. But I know I'm out of time, way out of time. So, yeah, but you see, I love to talk about this. So I want to thank you for joining me. I want to invite you to go check out my Patreon. The link's in this video. And if you would like to support me, it's only $5 a month. But you will get access to me, really, and you'll get access to the conversations that we have in the Patreon channel about this kind of stuff. And it isn't just all intellectual. It's people saying, hey, this is going on. What the hell is happening inside me? And why is this so hard? And I actually enjoy answering those. I do it once a week, but I'll pick something and I'll respond to it. And you get, if I find something beautiful, I just think, I want to take those photographs and share them with my patrons. That's what I do in Patreon. And when the website starts being built and there'll be things to test, I'm going to ask you to participate in that so you can be part of this project and you can support it. And if you would like to do that at $5 a month, that would be great. You may also notice that I have just 3 spots open for one-on-one coaching. If anybody wants to do that, I'll be delighted. So that's my blurb. That's what I've done this week. I just love having you here with me, so thank you for making the time to share the space. I'll be back in a week's time with more. Until then, much love. Bye-bye.